Hello again and welcome to the first problem of the CSES graph series. So let's get started with the problem statement. We are given a map of a building. Our task is to count the number of its rooms. Our map is an n by m square. So there are n rows and m columns, and each square is either a floor or a wall. You can walk left, right, up and down through the floor squares only. Okay, and for the output you have to print the number of rooms. Let us look at the input test case and things will be clear. This is our input test case. So as you can see, there is a room here. We can find some free space here. There is a second room here. This was the first room. Similarly, there is a third room here around this pillar. Third room. So our answer is 3. Our answer is 3. Okay. So we are supposed to solve this problem. Prerequisites. For the prerequisites, you should have watched DFS from the previous video, the introduction video. If you haven't, go ahead and watch it. And you should have also understood connected components from the previous video, although I'll be touching on this concept again in this video. Okay, and this problem is a DFS on grid problem. We will see what that means. First, let us understand the concept of connected components and its relevance here. Basically, a connected component can be understood based on a DFS over all locations visitable from the given location. This was explained in video 1. Okay, so how do you do that practically? You pick an unvisited location and you start a DFS or even a BFS. We are sticking with DFS and we explore as much as possible. So you explore completely. After that, you pick another unvisited location. The number of picks you make is the number of connected components. The number of picks you make, so this was pick 1, this was pick 2, that will be the number of connected components or the number of rooms. Let us see that practically. There are 4 rooms. Let me prove that to you. If you start here, any location here, you are trapped within this box. You cannot go to any of these locations, correct? So this is room number 1. Similarly, if you are trapped here, you cannot escape and reach this zone, correct? Similarly, if you are trapped here in the third room, you are trapped here. You are locked out, you are not connected to location 1 or 2, so this is the third location. Similarly, if you are trapped here, this is the fourth location, fourth room. So in other words, we have 4 rooms. So we'll solve this problem with a DFS on a grid. Let us start with a location, unvisited location. So I will start here. Then I will do an entire DFS and I will label this as room number 1. Then I will pick another unvisited location. Let me start here. And then I will do an entire DFS and I will mark this as room number 2, connected component number 2. Then I'll pick another unvisited location. Let us say I pick here. I cover all this area and then I will label it as room number 3, connected component number 3. Similarly, lastly, I will pick an unvisited node here and I will cover this entire space and I will label it as room number 4. How do we perform a DFS on a grid? I have a very standard implementation that we'll be using again and again for any grid problem. So let's go ahead and discuss the implementation. Before we get started, I will be introducing the variables I'm going to use. This is what I'll usually do unless it's very obvious and it's getting repetitive. So n here will indicate the number of rows, m will indicate the number of columns, and rooms, this will be a final answer. This will indicate the number of connected component. Of course, it will be initialized to 0 when we start and it will be incremented as and when we find a new room. Okay, so the next important variable that we are dealing with, it is this visited matrix. I call it a matrix because it's a vector of vector. It will have n rows and m columns. It will be mirroring our grid. If a grid has 3 rows, our visited matrix will also have 3 rows and it will have 1, 2, let us say our grid has 5 columns and our visited matrix will also have 5 columns. So what exactly does this visited matrix do? It tracks 2 things. As the name suggests, if we have visited a particular location, it will be marked as true in this particular matrix. That is one purpose. So the first purpose is to track visited locations, but that is only one purpose. The second purpose, it also tracks impassable locations. So if you looked at our grid, these locations are not passable, right? So from a logical perspective, assume that even before the problem has started, we actually walked through all these locations and visited through them. That way, using the visited matrix itself, we are able to define impassability. So the second purpose of visited matrix, it is to track impassable terrain. Okay, both of them will be served with the visited matrix. In fact, this is a very standard implementation for all our grid problems. This is how we'll be approaching. The next important variable, we are recording the moves, the possible moves in our grid. So let's see what that means. Let us say you are in a location, you are in this location in your grid. As per the definition of the problem, and this is usually the case, we can either move left, right, up and down only in 4 directions. This is usually the case with all the grid problems. There could be exceptions. So technically what is happening when we move in these 4 directions, that is up, down, left and right. An upward movement is defined as a movement in which we go to the previous row, same column, previous row, same column, and a downward movement is the next row with the same column, correct? So these are the facts we are noting down. We are passing them as a pair of integers. The first integer in the pair, it would represent the row, the second integer would represent the column. So when we are decrementing the row, same column, what does that mean? This indicates an upward movement. When we are incrementing the row, same column, we are simulating a downward movement. Similarly, here we are manipulating our column numbers. So this will indicate a leftward movement, and the final variable, the final move, it will indicate the right movement. So since we have 4 allowed moves, we have noted down all of them as pairs, right? So now we are able to move through this grid very easily, provided that the destination location is a valid location. So that is the purpose of predefining these moves in our variable legend itself. Both of these are very standard, the visited matrix and the move vector. So we'll be using them in all the grid problems. So this Boolean function we have right here is valid. This is also a very standard grid implementation. It will be used in a lot of grid problems. It will essentially tell you whether a location is valid or invalid. What's a valid location? What is a valid location? It is a location which is a valid destination. Okay. Why do we need to do this check? If you remember, in our conventional DFS problem, we were checking if particular location is visited or not, correct? We were making that check in our conventional DFS problem. In case of grid, such a check is not enough. Why? It will first of all check if the location is even within the boundary. This check is very important, otherwise we will end up with all sorts of out of bound errors. What that means is, let us say you are in this location, okay? For some reason, let us assume that this was a valid location. So you are allowed to make 4 moves. You can move left, you can move right, you can move down, or you can move up. The problem is, if you are trying to move up, you are trying to enter a location that is out of the bound of the array, This was not a problem with the conventional DFS, but when we are navigating in a grid, let us say we are in this location, we can't go up, we can't go left. Let us say we are in this location, we can't go up and we cannot go right. So these facts need to be verified. So that is what the isValid function does. If it is out of bounds, we return false. Next, if a location is previously visited. Okay, what is previously visited? It had two definitions. First is it was indeed previously visited. The second, if you recall, any location that was impassable terrain, we had noted it down as visited. So in both these cases, it will return false. Otherwise, it will return true. To summarize, when this function returns true, it says, yes, it's within the valid boundaries. Within valid boundaries, it is passable and it was never visited. So just like in the previous video where we were calculating connected components using a DFS across all valid locations, we'll be using a similar strategy here as well. So what these two loops indicate is, for each row, for each column, if a location is not visited, do a DFS. If a location is not visited, let's do a DFS and increment the count of rooms, increment the count of connected components. Let's see what all this means. For each row, so let us start with the first row here. The 0th row is meaningless, and let us start with the first column. Again, the 0th column is meaningless in this context. So that means we will start here. And is it visited? It is not visited. So we will do a DFS. That's what that part of the code was suggesting. And we will increment the connected components. We'll label it as room number 1. So we will increment the connected components to 1. Right. Next, after all this, he'll come back to location number 2. Location number 2 is already visited. This location would have also already been visited. This location would have also already been visited. Then he will do a DFS here. He will perform a DFS here and scan out all these locations. So by constantly picking up on unvisited locations and scanning, that is performing a DFS from that source, so if this is your source, you will do a DFS from here and you'll cover all these locations. If this is your source, you'll do a DFS from here and cover all these locations. By doing this, you will map out all the connected components and you will get the number of rooms, which is 4 in this case. So that is what we were doing. For each and every unvisited location, we are trying to DFS and map out the whole room. For each location, map the room. Okay. Now, what is our DFS function going to look like? Initially, we'll mark that particular location which was unvisited as visited, and we will perform our moves. In case of a conventional DFS, we were moving to the children, correct? From location U, we were moving to V and W. That's what we were doing in our conventional DFS. In case of a grid, given a location, we will try to move up, down, to the left and right. So for each and every move, remember, move, there are 4 moves in a vector. So for each and every move, if the move is valid, perform a DFS recursively. If a move is valid, that is, it takes us to a valid location, perform a DFS recursively. That is what this piece of code suggests. So once we do that, we will scan out the whole room with the DFS. We could have used a BFS strategy also, but we are using DFS here. So once we do that, eventually we'll come back to this part of the code in our connected components function, and we'll keep incrementing the rooms, and finally the number of rooms will be the answer to our problem. So let's go ahead and make a submission and see if we can get an accepted. I've submitted all these problems before, but I'm doing a re-recording so that the audio quality is much better. Right, so thank you very much for watching this video. We got accepted. I hope you like this video. If you like this video, please subscribe to my channel for more such videos and press the bell notification icon for your updates. And please hit the like button and share widely. Thank you very much. Have a nice day.